Afternoon, this is Jen, the Liberty Lion. I'm going to talk to you today about the laws that we have in place, positive laws and social contract. But I'm going to show you also a few other things like the enacting clauses and who they're for and why we have them. And the fact that we all are not citizens of the United States. We are all Americans or state citizens. And the citizens of the United States are a certain group of people controlled by the states. They are our public servants. Um, they're the servants in service to the United States. And I've talked about this topic many times before. You can go back through some of my videos and find them. But we're going to talk about this again because repetition seems to be the key for a lot of people's understanding. So this website is, I just Google OLRC and I get here. It's uscode.house.gov. Official Office of the Law Revision Council. Now this does not have up here the little emblem that shows that this is an official government website. I do use it a lot for the US codes. They're still accurate, up to date, and good to be used for the purposes that we're needing them for. So the first thing I want to do is look at the organic laws. And then I want to go to first the Declaration of Independence. I just want to show you something here. That originally the independence belonged to the 13 United States of America. That's important to understand that these are the states within America. And if we go down to the last article before the signatures, it also says that the independence is of the states. So the representatives of the United States of America. So who wrote the Declaration of Independence? The representatives of the United States of America in General Congress assembled. That these colonies are and of right ought to be free and independent states. As free and independent states, they have full power to levy war, conclude peace, contract alliances, establish commerce, and to do all other acts and things which independent states may of right ought to do. So the point is that the free, sovereign, and independent states, or the colonies, came together and made themselves free, sovereign, and independent states in the Declaration of Independence. And so the states gained their independence. And we look at the Articles of Confederation. And in here we see that the states who were free, sovereign, and independent, in the Declaration of Independence they stated that they were, wrote the Articles of Confederation. So the states, the representatives from the states, wrote the Articles of Confederation. They did it as an assembly, calling themselves in Congress assembled. So whereas the delegates, those are representatives of the states, of, meaning within the United States of America and Congress assembled, that they did do these things. And one of the things they did was to create an agency. Okay, so one of the things that they first showed us in the Declaration of Independence, before that they stated that they were independent states, they said that okay, that they ought to be free, sovereign, and independent states. And one of the powers that they first stated they have, full power to levy war. That was one of their very first things that they wanted to say that they were reserving the right to do, to levy war. How are they going to levy war? They don't have a military, not an organized one. They have all these militias from the different states. So what did they do as one of their first acts? Well, first they got the states together because power comes with population, with people, okay, and resources. People are a resource. Their land is a resource. People do things. And the second thing that they did was to create a way to levy war, which is through a military. Okay, so each state retains its sovereignty, freedom, and independence. Every power, jurisdiction, and right. Okay, keeping that in mind, the states came together, and what did they do? They assembled as a Congress of the United States of America. So the United States, each state assembling, stating that they retain individually sovereign, because we see each retains its sovereignty, freedom, independence, and every power, jurisdiction, and right, which is not by this confederation expressly in writing delegated to the United States. So this was basically their second act, to do the first thing that they said they had power to do, to levy war. And they did that by creating an agency. And the agency is called the United States. And they have a right to assemble in a Congress to do the things listed, right? So the Articles of Confederation are the things that the states agreed through their delegates that they could do. So these are the powers that the states agreed they had the power to do. One of the first things was to create an agency to do some of these things, and this agency was called the United States. With the Ordinance of 1787, because there's a lot of land that hasn't been made into states yet. So through the federal government, through the United States, they set up a sort of government that would aid the states in creating themselves into states and set down some rules. And those rules are listed somewhere in here. Before the states were made into states, there were a few protections that the United States were going to give or guarantee to the territory not made into states yet. And those include like habeas corpus and such other things that are just generally in the Constitution. Neither slavery nor involuntary servitude in the territories, other than the punishment of crimes. So basically, it's some of the same stuff we see in the Constitution. Okay, so then it says, there shall be formed in the said territory not less than 3, no more than 5 states in the boundaries, because this is the Northwest area only. And then eventually all the states were made into states. They were to, um, such state shall be admitted by its delegates to the Congress of the United States on equal footing with the original states in all respects whatever, and shall at liberty to form a permanent constitution and state government, provided, these are the stipulations, the constitution and government of the state being created, so to be formed, okay, of the state being created, shall be republican, and in conformity to the principles contained in these articles. So this is sort of like a pre-constitution to the Constitution of the United States. So this is what the United States was going to do, and the territories, and what it was going to do in the states. And so far as it can be consistent with the general interest of the Confederacy, such admission shall be allowed at an earlier period, and when the less number of inhabitants in the state than 60, free inhabitants in the state than 60,000. Okay. So they were to abide by the Articles of Confederation. They were supposed to form a republican form of government. They were supposed to have so many people, and the federal government was supposed to aid in controversies between tribes and the people creating the states, so on and so forth. Okay, you can go and read that. And then states were being formed, so they needed a constitution. The Constitution is for we the people of the United States. We the people, not we the people, but the people of the United States. So there are already representatives. These are the representatives from the states that were going to be put in place to do these things. So we the people of the United States are like the same as saying the deputies of the states that we have in the Articles of Confederation, right? So we have the delegates of the United States of America in Congress assembled, and then we have the United States in Congress assembled. We go to the federal Constitution, and down here it says the text of the Constitution following a gross copy, that these were delegates or deputies. I believe they were deputies. So then the states sent deputies to a meeting, and they created and signed this Constitution, right? And they are we the people. Those people who wrote the federal Constitution, who were the people selected from the states, let's see, the Constitution followed in gross copy signed by General Washington and the deputies from the 12 states. So Washington and the deputies of the 12 states, they are we the people. And then anyone after are included in those people, but the after are the people who are supposed to be the Congress of the United States and part of this federal document to represent um, the United States. They're in service to the United States. So these are the people, are the deputies selected by the states to represent the states in an agency called the United States. The first oaths said that these people were in service to the United States, but they were loyal to all the states. So then you don't have a dual loyalty, right? Because you're loyal to all the states and you're in service to the United States. And we see a hint of that in Article 2 where it has two different governments. This is like the Confederacy. The executive power shall be vested in a president of the United States of America. Where did we see the United States of America? Right? In the Articles of Confederation, whereas the delegates of the United States of America in Congress assembled. This is the Congress of the United States of America. And they created the United States. They created their military so that they could declare war. And their military is the United States, and they are loyal to all the states. And where do we see that? The president shall be commander-in-chief of the Army and Navy of the United States. The United States of America has an agency, and that agency has a national military. That agency, the United States, has a military. The states have militia, and the militia of the several states, when called into actual service of the United States. The Articles of Confederation, the deputies of the United States of America in Congress assembled state that each state retains its sovereignty, freedom, independence, and every power, jurisdiction, and right not given expressly to the United States and Congress assembled. Okay, so go back to the Constitution. I remember the first thing that they needed to be able to do was to declare a war. They had the right to declare war, and then they had to create an agency that could do it. The agency that they created could do it is a military agency, right? It's in the Declaration of Independence. We want the right to declare war. So if I can find the Constitution again, Declaration of Independence, Articles of Confederation, Constitution. So we saw the United States of America. Article 2 is president. He has two offices. Running the Confederation, the power over the states, each individually. Each state retains its sovereignty, freedom, and independence in every power, jurisdiction, and right. Not expressly delegated to the United States. Not expressly delegated to their agency that they gave power to declare war to. Well, the reason why the states had to ratify the federal Constitution was because they had to agree to give the federal agency created by the states. Each state had to agree, because it's a contract, a type of contract. Each state had to agree to the contract that the United States would have some powers. These powers would be perpetually funded. So each state had to agree that the federal agency, the United States, has certain powers, and that they promise to continue funding the United States for those things in the federal Constitution, in the Constitution of the United States. So the things in the Constitution are the things the states agreed to fund for as long as they're members of the Union. Now they can agree to fund other things outside the Constitution, usually temporarily, on a case-by-case basis, because they need to make sure of where their money's going. So the states are supposed to fund the things in the Constitution without question, without change. This is what they fund. And then anything else has to be its own bill outside the Constitution. So the president, he's the president over the states, but he's also president over the military. the agency created by the states. Now see, he is not the executive officer of the United States of America. I'm sorry, I apologize. That was a misstatement. He is not the executive officer of the military. He is not the executive officer of the United States, because the federal military has no executive power. It has military power. He's the commander-in-chief over the military, and the military is the United States. It's the United States, not the United States of America. And try not to believe silly things like, well, when they said the United States, it was just a short way of saying the United States of America. That's not true. Everything in here is written as it was intended. And if you're going by the rules of grammar, the laws of grammar, the proper laws of grammar, formal, such as what this document is, it's a formal document, it's written in formal English language, following the formal rules of grammar. If the United States was a shortened way of saying the United States of America, the United States of America should have been written first, and then after it would be the United States. But since that is not the case, this is the people of the federal military agency saying that we promise to do these things for the United States of America. So in other words, they're saying, we the military, and we saw that in Article 2, Section 2, we the military, the United States is the military, because the United States does not have an executive officer. The United States has a commander-in-chief. Because the military does not have an executive officer, the military has a commander-in-chief. And those powers are vested in one office with two different people. Well, two different offices, one person. The president is the one person. The two offices are Executive of the United States of America and Commander-in-Chief of the Army and Navy of the United States, and the militia of the states, or the militia of the United States of America, when called into actual service of the United States. So we, the military, do these things for the states. Okay, so we go to Article 2 again. The president promises. The president is the executive of the civil states, the civil government, the United States of America, and he is also the commander-in-chief of the military, national military. The United States is the national military, and the militia of the, when you see these several states, that's the United States of America. The militia of these several states, the militia of the United States of America, when called into the actual service of the national military. Okay, so let's see if we can do this again. The president shall be a military head called Commander-in-Chief of the Army and Navy of the national military, and the militia or the militias of the United States of America, when called into the actual service of the national military. The first oath, remember I said the first oaths said the military is in service to the United States, and loyal to the United States of America. Articles of Delegates of the United States of America in Congress assembled were the delegates from all the states. They got together in this Congress, the Congress of the United States of America, and they created a national military. And you might say, but wait, it says in Congress assembled, the United States in Congress assembled. Yes, let's look at why. Let's look at that. The Declaration, Constitution. All legislative powers herein granted shall be vested in a Congress of the United States, in a Congress of the military, of the national military. Why? Because the states, the United States of America, agreed to create a national military so that they could, by right, in their Declaration of Independence, do one of the most fundamental things an independent nation would do: protect its people and its property, full power to levy war, and conclude peace. Contract alliances, which is what they did between the states, and they contract alliances with other people, but yes, contract alliances between the states. Establish commerce, get commerce going, not hinder it. Get it going, establish it, get it going. Commerce is good for the people. And to do all other acts and things which independent states may have right do. States, the United States of America. And when you join the military, you become a member. Over and over and over again. You can find that anywhere online. And no person shall be a representative who shall not have attained the age of 25 years and been 7 years a citizen of the military. Same for senators. Same for president. Now, a lot of people have a hard time understanding the difference between how a representative or a senator qualifications are stated and the president's qualifications are stated. And I'll explain that to you. There's a big difference between being in the military, having been in the military, and never having been in the military. The Congress, representatives and senators, and the president must either be in the military or have been in the military. Either way, you must have military experience. This says you must have been at least 7 years a citizen of the United States and not in the state in which you shall be chosen. Now, if this was ran the way most people think it's ran, they say, well, that's because you have to live in Washington for 7 years before you can be in the federal Congress or the Congress of the United States. That's not the case. You can be in any state, but not living on state lands, but instead living on federal lands. Now, that was changed later on by the courts, but that was outside of the power to to have that done. The courts didn't have the power to declare who was a citizen of the United States. So what they basically did was they changed the entire meaning of the Constitution. And I've read to you from LaRue's book, Constitutional Law is Fiction, that the Constitution is rarely read by judges or lawyers or attorneys. It's the first court cases that are read to understand the Constitution. And I think that's where problems started, that the Constitution should be read and interpreted and administered rather than the few court cases that were declared or passed or whatever to get your idea of what the Constitution means. That's a mistake, because right off the bat, the Constitution was taken out of context. And if you are a federal citizen now, you're also a state citizen. So this is why it's kind of confusing to people. They don't understand what a citizen of the United States is, and today everybody claims to be a citizen of the United States, and we're just not. So this is a person who wants to be a representative, must be in the military, because they're composed of members. The only members there are so far are people in the military. So the House of Representatives shall be composed of members. So this is misconstrued to mean once you get in Congress, then you're a member. Whereas I read it as you must be a member before you get into Congress. You combine that with a citizen of the United States, and you combine that with not an inhabitant of the state, and you get someone in the military. Now then people are confused because they go to Article 2 and they say, well, what about the president? Well, the president doesn't have to be currently in the military because Washington wasn't. He had two military commissions, and then he got out of the military, and then he was asked to come back and be the first president, in which case he did. So he was out of the military, returned to private life, which made him again a natural born, and they used his time in 14 years a resident within the military. So it also says here, or a citizen of the United States. So that means he can be either in the military, have returned to his natural, organic life as a private person, called a natural born citizen, or he can be in the military. So he could have been in the military. He had to have been in for at least 14 years, gotten out, returned to private life, and then asked, hey, come back and be president. And if he qualifies, he can accept the offer and run for president. Or he can be in the military currently, or a citizen of the United States. Now this all makes perfect sense, right? It should. As long as he has already had 14 years. So let's say he's got 14 years in one day and he's in the military, he hasn't gotten out yet. He qualifies. So he can be in the military and become the president. And I'll tell you, when I was in the military, it appeared to me that people took their oaths much more seriously than the people up in Congress do now. And I think that's because the people of the United States of America, the states, are not in the military, and they're representing the states, and they're civilians, and they don't have the loyalty that the people in the military do. So the delegates of the United States of America in Congress assembled are civilians. And then when they join the military, they, if they've served the required number of years, they can become members of Congress or president. Okay, so I said I was going to talk about positive law, and I was going to talk about non-positive law. Okay, so positive law has this little asterisk here. Every actual law has to have a citation, a way of citing it, a very specific way of citing it, so that everybody knows that they're looking at an actual law. Okay? So the positive law citation tells you this is how you cite this law. Every actual law has to have a citation. This is your positive law, a law that's actually been made. It's an actual law with proper authority. It conforms to the dictates of the Constitution. It's passed all the requirements. It's been read 3 times. It's done all the things. It's gone through the processes properly. It's passed. It's constitutional. It's a law. It applies to the federal people on federal lands or their dependents and civilians and other people on federal lands. So if there's not a positive law citation, it's a form of a social contract. All social contracts require you to do something. The contracts, okay, this is talking about injuries, but I just want to show you that contracts can be express or implied. Okay, express means it's written, such as the Constitution. Remember, the Articles of Confederation said that the powers of the Constitution were expressly delegated. So the constitutional powers are expressly delegated. They're not implied. There's no implied powers. So the Congress and the judiciary, who are quote unquote interpreting the laws, and I talked about that on the video I post just before this one, they're not supposed to interpret the laws. The laws are supposed to be written in a way that they don't have to be interpreted. They're administered. The first oath for the First Judiciary Act said that the justices will administer the laws. That means the laws cannot be vague. And if you go into the military section, the rules and regulations, if you're on a military post, you know exactly what to do and what not to do. There is no question about what you're supposed to do. You get into these other laws, and it's like, well, sometimes yes, sometimes no. We can do things a little different, and then we change the laws. But these are like social contracts. These have no citation. If you look at the IRS forms, they don't follow the positive law citation that all positive laws have. All federal positive laws have. They're cited very specifically. Title III of the United States Code, the President codified and enacted in positive law, and may be cited as 3 USC subsection whatever, right? They're all that way. They're all 2, well, not 2, because 2 is not a positive law. Congress is not a positive law. Positive law. Title IV would be 4 USC whatever. 5 would be 5 USC whatever. 6 would not be 6 USC. It will be something else. Go and look at your IRS forms. It does not say 26 USC. It says something else. It'll say some part of 26 IRS code, blah, 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 blah. Or Title 26 IRC, Internal Revenue Code, subsection, blah, blah, blah. Or subsection blah, 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 like 3601 of Title 26. They cite it in all different kinds of ways because there's no citation, because it's not a law. It requires you to file papers. It requires you to make, signatures, to give up information voluntarily. It's an express contract that you agree to. The, let's see, the implied contract is like using the fiat currency. The fiat currency is legal tender. Legal means contract. Tender means voluntarily. You didn't force it on anyone. You didn't force them to take it. You didn't force them to sign the contract. The law contracts can only be contracts if they're done voluntarily, even if they harass you into doing it. They can bully you into signing a contract, but ultimately it's up to you. You can put under duress, but they're not going to like that, and they're going to go after you because of the implied contract, your use of legal tender, your use of their contract. The use of their contract, the legal tender, which it says legal tender on your money, and they know that nobody's going to come out here and read all these to know what everything is. So if they do away with cash, it's going to be harder for you to look at the dollar and say, oh, it says legal tender. I don't have to use this. It's a contract. It's not in your face anymore. They just continue to hide things and shuffle things and move things around and advertise to you and propagandize to you and fearmonger you and all those things. Okay, so these are just social contracts, which are outside the Constitution. And they put you in jail for this stuff because they don't call it debt, they call it a social contract. They made it into a contract. Okay, and they have all different reasons and laws, and nobody goes out and reads these things, so people don't really look at them. You have to actually sit down at the computer and do some research. I think people, for the most part, just get overwhelmed. And that's one of the reasons why I do this, because I do, to some extent, understand this stuff. And so I help you help yourself, and then maybe you learn it enough you can go out and teach other people. So with that, please like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you again soon.